Welcome back to another lesson from Toma Techno Productions. Now we are going to see how to develop arpeggios and melodies. We can say better, we are going to see how the arpeggio will manage to be a fundamental element of the track, especially later on when we are going to deal with the writing. I started with an initial group consisting of a kick, how you can see, a tip, a sub, and of course a bass, to which I added a percussive loop to bring out the highs and give a greater impact to the bass. Let's hear all the elements together. You'll notice that the creation of the kick and bass is the same as explained in the previous lesson. After that, I added a series of custom hats that create a specific rhythm. Combined with the first group, we have our bass. Through the serum, with some very interesting presets, I took directly a synth from the Kraken Techno sound set, which has some very good presets. They are very modern and fresh, with which I built this tune. All this is accompanied by a response that allows us to create a unified and unique pattern, making the two sounds work together to create a single melody. In this way, we have created a motif that, without the use of the arpeggio, will struggle to work through the track. It will be our drop, basically. Now we are going to listen to the track without the hats. You may have noticed that I always put our equalizer first, the auto filter to be put at the end, of course. Valhalla is not active, but if I want to use during the break phase, I can activate to give the sound more space, and then I use the delay. The same obviously applies to the second sound, but I slightly made it more raw through the use of an amplifier and then a Valhalla that I have already activated to give the sound more space and depth. Obviously, now we get into the heart of the lesson. The arpeggiator I have here, I've already put in audio. Why? To make it easier for you to understand the lesson, since when you activate the listening loop, when the loop starts, again the arpeggiator shifts its rhythm, and I don't want this to happen for a clean and understandable listening. As you have heard, the arpeggiator has shifted the rhythm, and this is what we are going to avoid. The sound remains the same with the addition of an equalizer to emphasize the high waves. I also left the reverb for convenience, even if it is an activity that I don't do. I usually put in the channel my reverbs to have total control of the sound and its speciality. In this case, I left it simply because the primary purpose is to make you understand the importance of the arpeggios and their role with melodies. The notes were chosen from the base of the kick note. The note is the note G, as you can see. This allows us to experiment by starting with the right note. In this case, from the arpeggiator, I changed the step parameter to increase the number of notes, without limiting ourselves to playing only the notes inserted in the mid clip. With the distance, instead, I inserted the parameter 12 to play an extra turn of notes of 1 octave higher. As you can see here, if you hold down the same note, you can hear both this note and this one being played. The reference key is always the note G. I set the speed of the arpeggio in 16th and then the turning up. From here, I looked for a loop that could be attractive and melancholy. I tried the 3 notes initial, which, however, if I left in, will go into the backbeat. It's all about choices here. The arpeggio backbeat is interesting and original, but in this case I opted for something more classic and more like my style. So I added the note D. You can hear a crescendo that helps the development of the track. If we notice, even without the use of the first and second melody and then the response, the track will already sound complete. Can you hear the response with the kick? The arpeggio and the kick now are in symbiosis. That means they sound good together. But this is why. Because they are on note. This work is essential if you want to create a type of melodic electronic music that has coordinated melodies. We saw a simple arpeggio developed in 4 notes through the MIDI arpeggiator that you find among the MIDI of Ableton, which allow you to apply parameters on MIDI channels, unlike audio effects that act directly on the sound signal. In this case, I only changed the step parameter and the distance. But let's listen to what happens if I change this parameter. Let's see what happens if we change the steps. With the step parameter set to 0, the same notes as in your MIDI clip will play. This is a classic way to use the arpeggio. If you want something that creates more tension or another kind of a techno style, you can go inside the scales. There are various types of them. Acoustic, on C major, the Neapolitan, the tension 1, tension 2. Basically, the scale allows us to just follow the notes of the scale and then create something that is harmonic and coordinated according to the parameters of the scale, without creating melodies that don't sound good. The example I propose is the one with tension. As you can see, I left the arpeggiator with the same parameters as before. And if you notice, with tension offline, I can play all the notes. With tension active, I will play only the notes that the scale allows me to play. That is this. Pay attention. It allows us to play always and only these notes. This is because it forces, through the parameters it incorporates, to play those notes that, if joined, create tension. We will then get another type of track, of course. As you can see, it's completely different from something melodic. Obviously, it depends on the style. Let's say that I've made this genre mine. Now we notice how, using the ready-made audio, how everything is much more coordinated. So this is a classic way of building arpeggios and melodies that allows me, especially in the moment of writing, to give life to the track, to allow it a transformation. From an initial moment of the intro, already developed, we'll have something like this. Until a moment when the track is releasing its sounds and you understand what it is communicating to us. We can also see the impact and valence of these arpeggios if we simulated a break and a drop. In a very simple way, I have shown you how arpeggios can help the creation of tracks in the mix with melodies. In the next lessons, we see something more in depth regarding melodies, use of sounds and atmospheres. Thank you for following me, subscribe to the channel and please support my music.